Yo! Hello! And this is week 5, 2024. And this is the notable events, weather and sports. The top story is the British farmers are getting ready for social disorder.
Hi guys and gals. Just a little heads up really. I've just got out of a meeting with a few people, one in particular, a farmer. And he's just been enlightening us as what's going on in Europe. You may have seen it on social media. It's not being put on the news, on mainstream news, about the farmers' revolts in throughout Europe, France, Holland, Germany, Romania, Poland, and Italy. It's going on everywhere, but you're not seeing it on the mainstream news. And he was telling us why it's happening, and what it is. It's the governments in these countries, including the United Kingdom. They are incentivizing farmers to reduce production of food, and they are also restricting how farmers can operate by increasing fuel prices, cutting certain subsidies, and just making life very difficult in general, like restricting fertilizers that can be used and stuff like that. And he was telling us about one particular farmer here in Britain who farms 10,000 acres of land, but he's being incentivized using our taxpayers' money to not farm the land. The government are paying him £80 per acre to not farm. Now that's done on a sliding scale over 3 years. Cut production by 50% in year 1, 50% in year 2, 50% in year 3, and eventually down to nothing. So by year 3, he'll be producing 12.5% of what he was originally producing. Now, the thing is, because of the problems going on around the world at the moment, you won't be able to import the goods, and our government are incentivizing farmers to not grow the goods. So we've got to think is, what are you going to eat? Okay, what are you going to eat? This is deliberate. You've got certain individuals buying up land like it's going out of fashion, farmland, that is. These aren't farmers, they're just buying up farmland, and they're not putting anything on them. So what he was telling us is that the farmers in Britain are now getting very agitated and are starting to think about going down the route of the European farmers, which will be blockades, cutting off ports. In France, they're digging up roads. They're bringing the whole country to a halt. And what he's saying is that the farmers in Britain are a bit worried about doing it because they don't want to lose the support of the people. The farmers are well aware that they need to provide food for the people that live in our country, but they can only go ahead and take the action if the people are behind them. So over the next few weeks, you're probably going to be seeing a lot of information coming out as far as, information on boards and videos and things like that. And what they're saying is that maybe you'll need to be stocking up on food for a little while, just to see you through the short time period that the farmers have to make their voice heard. This needs to be done before mid-March, when the farmers start getting busy again. So that's all it is, just a little heads up, and the farmers are looking for your support. So, and you can help them by just putting the word out. So that was all. Have a great day. Well, let's see where it goes.
Well, they have my support. This guy sums it up all perfectly well.
Represent a district where I have people that have been farming the same small farm for generations. They've gone through drought, they've gone through pestilence, they've gone through war, they've gone through depressions, and they've survived all of it. It's amazing to me that eventually some of them might actually lose their farms because we're losing more every day. Not because of all of the prior challenges that I just described, but quite frankly, what can be chalked up to is the arrogance of a politician that would honestly state that if you can't do it the way I think you should do it, even though I have no practical experience with it, well, then maybe you shouldn't exist. There's only one entity in the Commonwealth of Virginia that still possesses the ability to steal from labor that which it has earned. And it's not farmers. It's us. We have the ability to confiscate. We have the ability to tax. We have the ability to take. How about we try this as an exercise? How about all 140 legislators in this building take a season off, and then we'll take 140 corresponding farms and have them take a season off and see which people our constituents really miss more.
More social disorder, as the ULEZ guys and girls are having
Oh, look at this, folks, look at this. Another one down. That's one here. We're at Keston now. Bit of Keston. So we got one there. We got a second one there. Down. And over there as well, we got a third one. They've locked all the traffic lights. And look, the lights ain't working, but guess what? The cars are all, there's no traffic in any direction here. Keston Common or something this is. So yeah, no traffic in any direction. Everything's flowing freely. We're not getting any accidents or anything here. Everyone's being cautious. Look, the cars are coming. Everyone's behaving themselves. They understand that it's not the usual thing. And this one over here is a bit confused. Maybe he's waiting for Christmas, he needs an invitation. But yeah, other than that, we've got people not using their brains. But that's the biggest problem here, people not using their brains. We don't actually need, I mean, if they was to draw a little roundabout in the middle of this instead of these lights, I don't think there'd be any difference here. What do we need the lights for, apart from them to perch ULEZ cameras on to extort us with? So yeah, we don't really need them. There's 1, 2 and 3, all dead, folks, all dead. Look at the state of it. End of.
It is now illegal to feed the hungry in America.
Sheree, what are we going to do?
We're getting our 90th ticket for feeding people who are hungry tonight.
Let's see it.
You're going to be cited for violating the food service bin ordinance. Okay? Officer Mata's going to issue the citation. Really?
Right here, 324, with court number 3 and 9 p.m. at 14. Okay. Do you have any questions?
So this is my 18th physical ticket for Food Not Bombs, but this is the 90th ticket that the group has received since March 1st of 2020, since March 1st of 2023. So 90 tickets given because we are feeding people who are merely out here just to have a hot meal, a healthy hot meal. Ridiculous. And we're not just feeding the homeless, we're feeding people who are hungry. That's the bottom line. And it's clear that Mayor Whitmire is going to continue the trend, and it's unfortunate. Because we have a lot of hungry people out here, as you can see. And this is just wrong. 90 tickets.
All right, thank you, Sheree, for everything you do.
Absolutely.
News corporations are failing. Journalists. People are realizing journalists are useless.
Roll it.
The entire journalism industry is basically in a free fall. Today, the Los Angeles Times laid off 115 employees. They wiped out their entire DC bureau in an election year. Major media companies like BuzzFeed News have completely shuttered their news operations. Time magazine also just laid off a ton of people, and Sports Illustrated basically shut down last week. Pretty much the entire digital media ecosystem that myself and a lot of other millennial journalists came up in has been completely hollowed out. Meanwhile, hundreds of workers at Condé Nast, the parent company of pretty much every major magazine from GQ to Vogue to The New Yorker to Vanity Fair, are on strike because they're also facing impending layoffs. Even if you do get a job, journalists' salaries have been stagnant and even declined. And by the way, we don't make that much to begin with. I don't think people understand how bad the world would be without journalists.
She's right. Without journalists, who would arrest criminals or put out fires or build our roads or take care of the sick or deliver our mail or pick up our trash, keep our water and electricity running or defend our country? So yeah, thank God for journalists. Look, crazy lady, everyone understands how bad the world would be without journalists because we haven't had any for decades.
To be a journalist these days, you have to go to college for a few years, then go to university for a few years, racking up a massive amount of debt. Then after that, you have to become an unpaid intern for a few years till they decide you're worthy of them. So all the journalists you see on TV are either being picked from a stock or are being bred into it, and they come from wealth. The age of truth?
And somebody just said, we're in the age of truth, in the age of wisdom, 100%. That's what we're in. It's only going to continue. You know, how many same times can you see a reporter walking through a hurricane pretending like it's 100-mile-an-hour winds and it's 10-mile-an-hour winds? You know, how many times can you see a reporter tell you some incident occurred and it didn't even happen? It gets old. And now what's funny is, I said it last week on the live. I said that next they're going to cue like aliens. Aliens are spreading disease X. And it's hilarious but they actually said that. They actually said that. They said they have a message from the presidents of Europe that the Space Force and Disease X are going to be together. Do you see how goofy all of this stuff is? You can see it. Project Bluebeam. It is so obvious. Germs are jumping all over. From an alien invasion, they brought down microbes, and you guys better watch out. And now you guys got to go back to, standing on stickers in the grocery store. And you guys got to go back to covering up your face so you can't breathe again. Because germs are coming from the aliens. And Project Bluebeam, which is a hologram, is showing you the aliens. And then if the aliens are not spreading germs, they're spreading an alien tax. And somebody just said, we live in the Truman Show. 100%. It's all scripted.
MP Bridget stands up in the House of Commons.
Andrew Bridget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More than 2 decades ago, the then Prime Minister Tony Blair misled this House by promoting and endorsing the Post Office Horizon IT system as perfect, protecting the large corporation that created it and causing untold harm and damage and misery to innocent people. Can the current Prime Minister think of anything he has promoted in partnership with huge businesses as safe and effective, which has ultimately harmed the British people? And will he use this opportunity to correct that safe and effective statement, or will he choose the same line as Tony Blair, sit back, do nothing, and let the misery just continue to pile up?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we've been clear, the Horizon scandal is a terrible miscarriage of justice, and we're doing everything that we can to make it right. To what he was more broadly insinuating, let me be unequivocal from this dispatch box that COVID vaccines are safe, Mr. Speaker.
So far, he's been the only politician in the Western world to stand up and say the excess deaths are up. Untrusty people in suits prepare for the next pandemic.
But when we have the next pandemic, we don't want to have to wait a year before we get the vaccine. And if AI can shrink the time it takes to get that vaccine to a month, then that is a massive step forward for humanity.
Seems like last year they were already planning for Disease X. Funny poll in the UK. Who would you prefer to be the UK Prime Minister? Sunak, 4.3%. Stammer, 4.9%. Kyle Schwab, 3.5%. Putin, 87.4%. So if you have to choose from, basically the choice from posh Asian man, pedo protector, Dr. Evil, KGB, CIA fellow. The stats for if the UK and Russia went to war.
Would win if Russia and Britain went to war. Try not to laugh while watching this. First, Russia has 1.3 million military troops. Britain has just 190,000. Russia has a reserve military of 250,000, but Britain has 37,000. Russia has 14,240 tanks, and Britain only has 227. Russia's military budget is $410 billion annually, while the UK spends just $67 billion. Russia has 5,889 nuclear warheads. As of 2023, meanwhile, UK has only 260. Russia has 6,574 self-propelled artillery. What does Britain have? Just 89. Russia's total military aircraft is 809. Britain has just 120. Instead of discussing peace with Russia, politicians in Britain now say young people would be asked to join the military in a war against Russia. With clear statistics like this, who do you think would win? Let's advocate for peace, not senseless war.
Another man sums it up perfectly.
It's a lack of purpose. So if you look at people who are, I'd say, spiritual, you know, they have a belief in a higher power, they have a belief in God, or whatever you want to call it, the universe or whatever, and they believe that their lives are a vehicle for something much greater. They're not feeling the same fear. And fear is obviously a tool of control and has been for centuries. So they're not afraid. They're not afraid to die. They're not afraid to fight. They're not afraid to be ridiculed by the friends. They don't want to fit in. They've got an internal security. In terms of getting active, and I think people disempower themselves. I think that they think that their efforts won't have an effect, that it won't do something. What's the point? Oh, why, if I do that, that's not really going to change anything anyway. They're too big. They're too powerful. But in reality, everything you do has a butterfly effect. Every small action that you do ripples out into the world, and you've no idea the impacts that you've had. When I did that long march, you know, I may have impacted one person. I did actually meet a guy along the way in a churchyard, and we were chatting, and he felt stuck for several months in his life, and we talked for a couple of hours, and we really had this deep conversation, and he felt, oh, I know what I have to do now. I don't know what he's gone and done. I have no idea what he's gone and done. So if you start with the belief that everything you do has a massive impact, and that every small action that you do will influence others, that can be inspiration to go out and actually do the first step. You know, get on a roundabout, get a board, hold it, even if it's on your own. Because there might be one guy who's driving past who's felt all alone. And as he's felt alone, you've reassured him, actually, there are people out there. He might get out there and then become like a crux of the movement. You don't know that. So always sort of act as if it's having a big impact.
There's that saying, if you have a time machine, you go back in time, don't do anything, because the things you can do can drastically affect the future. So with that in mind, why don't people do things, little things now, what will drastically affect the future? It only takes a small amount of people doing the right things to make a big difference. Tom Barnett over plans to divert iconic 350-foot waterfall in Snowdonia that inspires storytellers, artists and poets by laying plastic pipes to supply hydroelectricity scheme. Another net zero initiative.
So I think I just stumbled upon something huge. You're going to want to hear this. And I haven't heard anyone talking about it. So I was thinking last night, what are we going to do with all this trash? It's toxic, it's plastics, it's leaching into the groundwater. What are we going to do about it? And then I thought, well, duh, we just need to stop producing it and use a different material. And then it hit me. Hemp isn't illegal anymore, so why aren't they using hemp to make plastics and whatnot, which they're able to do? And it's not because of big oil. The reason they're not using hemp to replace the entire packaging, plastic, all these materials, this whole industry that it would replace, is because hemp is said to absorb a lot of carbon. The amount of hemp they need to grow to facilitate the needs of that transformation of materials would completely offset the carbon that they're trying to get us so desperately to stop producing. And Agenda 21 is based around stopping this production of carbon. If hemp does it, they won't be able to stuff us into 5G, facial recognition, smart cities, and control every aspect of our lives. So that's why they're not growing hemp, and they're letting the world choke on plastic.
Net zero isn't made to make our lives better. It's made for control. Net zero strikes again. Wind energy company pleads guilty after at least 150 eagles killed in the USA. It's been known for a long time that birds get struck by wind turbines, killing them instantly. If this bird was covered in oil, this picture would be everywhere. Let that sink in. Secret Israeli and company hacked elections around the world.
And then cocaine, George is the name, and I don't have a name. Somebody said on the door, right?
No.
It says nothing.
My name is nothing.
That's who we are. We're nothing.
This is Tal Hanan, the mastermind behind Team Jorge, a covert unit that specializes in hacking and disinformation. For 2 decades, Hanan's real identity has remained secret. He operates in the shadows using an alias, Jorge. In 6 hours of secretly recorded meetings, Hanan and his Israel-based team were filmed demonstrating their services.
Open source, cyber, special operations, intelligence.
Hanan has corporate and political clients and boasts about past and present jobs.
33 presidential level campaigns we have completed, 27 of which were successful.
Our investigation pointed to Team Jorge's work in countries all over the world. The Guardian has been leaked emails in which Hanan quotes fees of between $400,000 and $600,000. They also confirm that Team Jorge worked covertly on the Nigerian presidential election in 2015.
Leaders aren't elected, they are chosen for an agenda. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, is all about control. It's not about the benefit of the people.
There is clearly an aspiration, a desire for digital payments, much more so than it was in the past, and this is growing. We are now, in the surveys that we've conducted across the 19 members of the euro area, we have more than 50% of the respondents who say, we want digital payments. Well, less use of cash, demand for secure and riskless payments. Where do we stand? We central bankers, we have been operating as a monetary anchor in relation to the commercial banks and the private money. If we are not in that game, if we are not involved in experimenting, in innovating in terms of digital central bank money, we risk losing the role of anchor that we have played for many, many decades. And we have historical examples of period where the central bank monetary anchor was not there, and that precipitated crisis after crisis. That certainly was the case at the time of the free banking in the 19th century. Do we want to go back to those days? Probably not. I would say certainly not from our vantage point, as a result of which we have to respond to the demand for those digital payments in order to maintain the role of anchor that we have.
Nobody's really wanting it. It's just convenient. And conveniency will be the downfall. Remember Elon Musk wants to put a microchip in your brain? Trust the science? US government already experimenting on unwilling citizens by chipping them and seeing if they can control them.
Synthetic telepathy. Thoughts that are put into an individual's head without their consent. That's crazy. Who would do that? Well, we can start with DARPA, IARPA, National Institute of Health, the CIA. This is a document from a fusion center released accidentally in a Freedom of Information Act. This is a book called Project Soulcatcher, written by a guy named Dr. Robert Duncan, who just happened to work for the CIA, DARPA, etc., etc. I mean, you ever heard of the BRAIN Initiative signed by President Obama? Check it out. You can look this up easily. So yeah, they've experimented with this technology on people that never gave their consent. Did I mention there's a US patent for this technology? And it's right here. First patented in 2003. Now you heard me mention the National Institute of Health. This right here is Christine Grady. She just happens to be the head of human experimentation for the National Institute of Health. Who happens to be married to Dr. Anthony Fauci? Imagine that.
Being too happy can cause you to have a heart attack, scientists warn. Now being too happy is a problem. The heart attacks cannot be down to anything else, can it? And we'll end on a song. It's always good to end on a song.
How they do ya? I heard there was a grabber plot to influence your every thought. but you don't seem to like conspiracy, do ya? There are Jews in power everywhere, but you can't let your mind go there. You're blind to them, and this is how they Jew ya. 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 Their tales were sad, but you wanted proof of Anne Frank hiding in her roof. They said you're so full of hate, and how dare ya? Your inquiry was called a sin, but they ain't never answered your question. So there's no proof, and this is how they Jew ya. 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 There was a time when you thought you knew that right was red and left was blue, but now you don't see no difference, do ya? Each congressperson, red or blue, has been blackmailed by a Jew. They're all corrupt, and this is how they Jew ya. 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 Well, Netanyahu has called for war. He lied to us on the UN floor. Fear Saddam was planted and it grew ya. We stained America's good name by killing who was not to blame for our own fears, and this is how they Jew ya. How they Jew ya. How they Jew ya. How they Jew ya. How they Jew. How they Jew ya. How they Jew ya. Thank you, Rabbit Ears Bear. That was great. And by the way, I believe Rabbit Ears Bear is a Jew, so I don't want to get any letters from the ADL. Allegedly. I don't think does she still identify as a Jew? I don't know how that works.